One of the things that's annoying me about this FG is these indicators. Now, for those old enough to remember, like I am, these should be the rather long, tall lenses, clear plastic lenses, about 8 inches long, that are have a slightly thicker in the middle, so that they're really quite a prominent feature, not simply a raised dimple on the side like this. So I wondered if technology could help us improve upon this. I bought some amber coloured perspex from Amazon, of all places. The thinnest I could get was 3mm thick. So yeah, we'll make do with 3mm thick. And drew up some of these lenses on AutoCAD or Draft Site. Let me see if I can show you the drawing, and you'll recognise it. Swing round on the camera. I don't know if the camera will pick up the computer particularly, but that's the shape, and I'm sure it might be familiar to some of you. Very distinctive of its period, and a lot of vehicles had these things, a lot of commercial vehicles. So, as some of you might know, I have a Stepcraft milling machine, which is a CNC router, but a very rigid one, and I can do some very useful little engineering on it. However, of course, these things I want to be about 4mm long. I think it's about 4.8mm long. Very small. They're only, as I say, a scale 8 inches. They also work out, so far as I can tell, to be around what was it? It was quite thin. Something, I don't know, something in the region of 2mm thick, rather than the 3mm that we've actually got. I think it's less than 2mm. So, first job would be to reduce the thickness of the perspex and then profile these things out. Now, much to my joy, it works. Now, I don't know if you can see, but that is my approximation to one of these indicator lenses to scale. I'm going to zoom in and see if the image gets any better. Hold on. And you may be able to see the shape of the thing. It's rather difficult to pick up, but it's machined it's machined as accurately as I drew it, let's say, and I've even managed to put a little step on the base, which, if one could see to do it, one could paint in chrome or something to represent the chrome base of the thing. So it's amazing, it's actually come out very well. The one drawback with it is actually it's very sharp-edged. Of course, these things aren't sharp-edged. They're rounded because they're moulded plastic, and they would want it to refract light in a certain way, so you would do that by having a rounded lens. So the next experiment I did was what is called flame polishing. Now you do this with edges or larger edges of perspex, and you heat it up, and effectively the rough edge of the perspex fuses together and you get a nice smooth edge. And I wondered whether it would even be possible to do it this small without melting the whole thing into an absolute heap. But if it could be done, that would give us a nice radiused surface. And I did it, and let us see if you're able to see that. But that is actually the same shape, but is nicely radiused. Whoops, daisy. So small I risk losing it. Now, the idea of flame polishing this sort of thing sounds really, really risky in modelling terms, so I'm just going to do it again in front of the camera just to prove the point. Now, I haven't done hundreds of these. I've done 2 trials plus the one I've just shown you, so this will be the 4th. So let's have a quick look. Now then, this is my wife's part of the workshop. So I have just put the lens, on the edge of this heat-proof block here, and this is going to be very quick, obviously, because we don't want it to disappear into nothing. So very quickly, I'm using this little butane torch, and that should be that. I'll just let it cool and we'll see what we've got, or I'll see what we've got. You probably won't be able to see. That's not bad. I might have overdone one end slightly, but the bulk, it's basically retained its shape. No, it's all right. Oh dear, sorry, you can't see. I'm so very sorry. It's retained its shape, but the edges are radiused and the ends are radiused. I would be perfectly happy to fit that to a model. So that is a viable way of making these indicator lenses, assuming you've got a CNC capability, which I have. You could of course hand cut these things and then flame polish them in exactly the same way as I've shown, but that has produced a very viable little profile lens of the type I need. Just thought you might be interested in that. Progress on the BMC FG. Right. With the exception of mirrors and number plates and some serious weathering down, this little beastie is now finished, I'm pleased to say. It feels to me as if it's dragged on for rather longer than it should have done. but that's life. Sorry, we'll just show it will actually do proper slow speed stuff. And steering lock is, I think, what you'd expect for a vehicle like this. Let's just show left-hand lock. So it's a nice manoeuvrable little beast. Now this is fitted with the K20, and that is its top speed, which around a railway is perfectly adequate, I think. But certainly it will manoeuvre very nicely round a yard. It's fitted with brake lights. I haven't bothered with indicators. None of my vehicles have got indicators on. I tend not to worry about it. As you can see at the moment, it's a little bit glossy and will certainly benefit from weathering down. Going to the business side, you can see the K20 driving the nylon gears very fusslessly and perfectly neatly. We have the on-off switch there. I use the convention that the switch is forward for on and back for off. You can see with this one, steering wise, the servo has to be at the front, as we've already discussed, and you can now see here the link between the servo and the stub axle. Doing this arrangement ensures the servo works the correct way round for the transmitter, so no clever electronics to make it operate correctly. You'll notice there's a kink in this. That's simply to make it straight, drive in a straight line. When I just bent up this link, it was a fraction long, so the vehicle was just steering slightly to the right. So by introducing a kink to it, it pulled the steering back central, and I did it by degrees, checking it. It was still steering a bit more to the right, so I put a bit more of a kink in it, thus shortening it, until I was happy that it was steering neatly in a straight line. Ever so simple. You can see here the battery. That's the 650 milliamp hour battery that gives me a couple of days running at exhibition. It's very neatly under the load bed. You can see it's completely invisible from the side. I think you can see that. There we are. And the dummy load bed is there. It's about 1 millimetre higher, literally only 1 millimetre higher than it naturally would be. So, you know, it's nothing. Not lastly at all, next, we've got these indicator lenses that I was making. I don't know if you can see them properly there. They're nicely glued on there on the side. They look quite nice. Fitting them, I was a bit worried that they might be a bit easy to knock off. So I drilled a 0.4mm hole through the centre of the old bit of the casting, as it were, and then ground the body flush, so I had a 0.4mm hole through the body on both sides, ground it flush, and then glued some wire into that hole, and when the glue was hard, I then just trimmed it back so there's a teeny stub about 1mm sticking out, giving me something to locate the lens on. And then I drilled a 0.5mm hole, a little recess, very carefully in the back of the lens, so I could actually put the lens on this little stub, this little stud sticking out of the body, and with a very small bit of epoxy on the lens, just locating it on this stud sticking out, it makes for a very nice secure fixing, or as secure as any of these things go, one on each side. And if we put the old and new side by side, I think you can see that in many ways it was worth the effort. The original manufacturer's attempt at just putting a bit of a metal blob on the side was really not awfully nice, and the Perspex lens is very much nicer. So I did that. I've also put a little tax disc, I think it's a 1961 tax disc in there. It is actually the correct thing. I can't remember what it's for. I did it some time ago. And it's got a driver. So I just need to make some mirrors, glue those in, do a spot of painting, and weather it all up. And then that's a job done. And another one for the fleet and for general use. Nothing out of the ordinary. We've discussed it at length. It was a bit tight to contain all the electrics and hide them under everything and in everything, but actually it's absolutely possible to do, and well worth the extra 5 or 10 minutes to do that. And this will make a nice little vehicle running around a yard, or making a nuisance of itself on any part of the railway, really. And I think it's a nice anglicised version. Total cost of this sort of thing, the lorry itself was £30, £31 I think, including postage from the continent. The receiver from Deltang was £29 plus postage. The battery, I think, was about £5. The switch, probably £2. The motor, if you can get them, was £4. And I think everything else is kind of pennies. The axle I obviously make myself. When they come up for sale, a kit for an axle will be probably about £8.50, and built up would be about £20. And there you have it. So a not frantically expensive model to make. All these things are reasonably time consuming to make. But if you think of it in terms of building a loco kit as opposed to anything else, it's really certainly not too bad at all. I remember making up an O-gauge brake fan, and I have to say that seemed to take me forever, and I don't think it took me any longer than this to do, certainly. So there you have it. You saw the beginning of it and you saw the middle of it, and now you're, apart from a couple of minor touches, you've seen the end of this process, including warts and all. So I hope you found it interesting. Good luck.